Hi folks, welcome to MTS. Today I have another potential project locomotive. We're going to find out. This is an MTH Railking Southern Pacific GS-2 daylight steam locomotive. I bought it as a project. Per the previous owner, it was not tested, but it does have that Protosounds 2 board set. Always a concern because the PS2 is a little more difficult to work on. Let me go ahead and get this unpacked, and we'll get into it. So this one may just be a big fat bust. We're going to see. Let's get it open, see what we got underneath in the back of the tender. Just removing the first, normally 6 screws, however, I just recently got, not necessarily burned, right? I knew I was getting kind of what I was getting into, but I just recently bought a, oh boy, it's got a regular 9-volt battery in it. Okay, first thing we'll do is go ahead and clean this. It's got some corrosion around the battery plug. We'll get rid of this thing. Find a BCR or a battery 9-volt. We'll just drop it in there and see what we got. Not too optimistic here. Okay, back over here at the layout. Go ahead and we're going to put this 9-volt battery on here. Still a little corroded, but we'll just, like I said, I'm not too optimistic anyway. Let's fire up the old Z4000. I'm going to put you guys right on. Let's bring you over here. I'll put you on the light bulb. We'll see if anything happens. All right. What? Okay, I'm keeping my fingers crossed here. Well, since it's already got a full charge, I'm just going to go ahead and see if it goes into forward, and then we'll do a neutral, stop, and then we'll do some reverse and see what happens. Okay, that's interesting. So it's not. It's got a full battery, so it should be going. It's not like I'm having to charge it up. Let's see what we got. I'm going to go ahead and just turn it off. So I'm going to go back through the connections and see where the battery is running through here. Maybe just a loose connection, because that should be just moving it on into the gearing. It's not doing any of that. So a little more optimistic than I was earlier. It did come on and it does have sound. So just going to take it back to the workbench. We'll go through the umbilical here and the various connections on the connection, and see if we can't maybe just determine, maybe it's just a loose wire, maybe there's something disconnected. We'll see. So I brought you back in here. I was just noticing. Let's see if this can show up on camera. So there is a lot of corrosion a lot of corrosion on those contact points inside this plug. Particularly just with a couple of them, right? There's some, actually, I see some rust corrosion there. There's some oxidation. And if you even look at there, you can actually see, I don't know if you can see it or not, the one right in the middle, that pin, where that pin goes, there's some oxidation on that as well. And I'm thinking that may have something to do with that battery that was plugged in there, possibly. I'm going to see if I can clean that up. If I can't, I'm pretty sure I've got the same umbilical from an older locomotive, but it's for a PS2, so I may just swap them out and see if that fixes our issue. Either way, so far so good. I don't have any kind of money in this yet, so we'll see. I'm going to, like I said, just take some electronic cleaner and just get in there real good. Take a dental pick, try to clean it out a little bit, and see what we can do. Okay, so I've cleaned this up quite a bit. It looks a lot cleaner than it did. So we'll take it back over to the layout, see if that works. If not, like I say, I may have to dig through the stash, see if I can't find something else. I'm also going to clean this ground off real quick, just to make sure we got a good contact there. Folks, I think what we have is an issue with the umbilical. At this point, I was able to determine that the tether wire was faulty. I wanted to make sure, so I did a factory reset using my Z4000 and pressing one whistle, 5 bells. It did solve one of the issues where the light that simulates the firebox glow came back on, but still had the same issue. I also used a Tether chassis that I had from another project and was able to actually cycle through forward, neutral, and reverse, but there was no sound. Okay, well. And on a good note, I was able to harvest the battery holder that was on the 686 turbine tender and utilize that on this GS-2 tender. Just snug it up there. And here I also tried swapping that tether from that MTH Railking 686 turbine locomotive, but it was a completely different tether. At one point, I was able to run the chassis around the layout a few laps, but when trying to cycle to reverse, had the same issue. I ended up ordering a replacement universal Protosounds 2 tether from MTH, and it arrived just a couple days later. Okay, folks, it's been a few days on this one, so ordered a couple parts. I went ahead and ordered a new tether, which is now it's a universal PS2 tether. I was able to get that from MTH because there's just a lot of play in this, and I'm thinking that may be my problem. I'm not 100%. So we'll start with replacing that. What I have to do is I actually have to disconnect all of these plugs, and then I'm going to have to reattach those to the, it looks like they're pre-soldered ends, and they include the heat shrink tubing on each wire. At the same time, I'll get this together. We're going to just I'll take the ground piece off, splice everything together. I'm going to obviously put some solder on it just to make sure we got a good connection, but this is going to take a little while. So I'll bring you back after I get all of this replaced and we'll get it back to the layout. Okay, so here I've disconnected the old tether. I'm just going to give myself, actually I'm just going to cut all the way to this zip tie, just to get myself enough slack to where I can wire to the new the new tether. You know what? We're just going to clip this zip tie off of here. I'd rather give myself a little more than not enough. Okay, so we have 3 wires here that connects into these 2. Then we have the speaker. We have the volume control, as well as, I think that's the coupler. I'll clip that one down here as well. And there we go. And then that way you don't, there's existing like wires that run between the two connectors, so you don't want to just go in here and cut too short, and you don't want to cut those other wires, right? So we literally have, let's see, red, blue, gray, and orange. We have the yellow and the white, and we have looks like a brown, a green, and a lavender purple color. So again, oh, I need the ground as well, don't I? Get the ground off of there. Okay, so we'll get rid of that, and again I'm going to start getting all these connections back to the new tether, and again I'll bring it back here shortly. Now, while I did appreciate MTH sending the heat shrink tubing, I don't like that it's so large, so I've got plenty of this narrower gauge heat shrink tube. So what I'm doing is just replacing that. We'll put that on the wires, and just makes it a little bit more clean after it's all put together. I got one more here. There we go. All right. Now we'll go ahead and start resoldering. So just like soldering a harness for a car stereo, you just take it one at a time. Just take your time and I'm just taking one connection at a time. So there's my speaker. Already got that connected up there. My last step will be going through and actually sliding all the heat shrink tubes in place and getting that in place. But for right now, I'm just going to keep on taking another group at a time, another component. The next one's going to be this plug and then the volume control. So we'll get that wired in next, and like I said, hopefully bring you back. I'll have all this done. Okay, last one. Go. So I've got all of my connections soldered, and that just gives more peace of mind than anything, right? So number one, it's going to offer a much cleaner connection, and number two, I know that for a fact that it's got a solid connection. So if there's anything wrong from here, I know it's not the plug. I will have plenty of excess. I'm going to go back through, we'll get the heat shrink tubes in place, get those shrunk down, and plug everything back up. We'll take it up to the layout, see if this fixes the problem. Okay, so there we have it. Had some micro zip ties. I just went ahead and put a few of those on there just to keep it all together. And then there was one large zip tie. I think that kind of helps keep the tether from going overextending too far into the engine. So I went ahead and put that on there as well. So now we're just going to go ahead and plug everything back up. I'm going to put one more zip tie. So this is for the tender, the rear light, the tender. But I am going to put one more zip tie just to kind of tidy this up a little bit. There we go. Okay, let's take it over the layout, see if that worked. Okay, I've got it all plugged back in. So let's see if that worked. Okay, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and tidy this up a little more. Get a zip tie loosely on the tether wire and do a few laps around the layout.
Okay, shut it off. Hook her back up to house stage.
Let's get the shells back on and finish this video out. In closing, this repair was very labor intensive, but only ended up needing a new tether. Hope you enjoyed the video and maybe helps you out on a project of your own. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you down the line.